Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode 129 of the J Situation Podcast. I'm recording this on September 6th, 2022. Man, hope you all had a wonderful holiday weekend. Yeah, good long weekend, good stuff. I enjoy those. Good time to recharge. Yeah, had a lot of rain here. It was a blessing for us. It was like at first it was a bummer because we couldn't do some things, but then we were like, you know what, we really did need this time to relax. But, it dried out on Labor Day, Monday, and some fun shooting happened. That's right, man. It's been a while since I've shot rifle with thermal during the day. Yeah, usually you're doing it at night, right? So it's been a while since I've done it during the day. So what I did was I took out the Voodoo S on the SCAR, and I did some steel silhouette shooting. Yeah, that was fun. Basically function check the optic on the rifle in front of the day scope. That was the kind of the principal goal there for that, and it worked really well. It really did. And steel is great for practice like that since it holds the heat from the sun very well. So yeah, it's kind of cool. It's definitely useful if you're into thermal. Maybe you set up some steel targets and you can see them pretty well there when they get hot. Now, you may not use thermal or night vision or things like that, and that's okay. Totally okay. Every day, technology advances and becomes more available. We're seeing a lot of great things come to market, and if you're ever in the market for things like that, you do want to make sure you deal with someone knowledgeable and reliable. You just got to be careful. So one place I know of that you can trust is high-end armament technology. That's right. This episode of the podcast is brought to you by High-End Armament Technology, a dealer of exactly that, high-end arms and accessories. They have significant longevity in the machine gun game, the NFA game, as well as significant expertise in both the procurement and operation of night vision, thermal optics, infrared sighting systems, all that fun stuff. That's right. Robert and his crew at High-End Armament have decades of experience, and they have actual knowledge of the gear. Okay, so if there's a weapon system that's rare and you're having trouble locating it, or if you need to get into night vision or thermal, or you're looking for a certain transferable machine gun, they're a great place to call. All right, so check them out, highendarms.com, on Instagram at highendarms, and they even have a Facebook page, which is also High End Arms. I hope they can help you folks out if you need it. Tell them Jay sent you. And also, as always, this podcast is sponsored by Silencer Shop. You can use their kiosk. You can do your fingerprints and photos electronically. And in turn, you cut down on errors. You simplify your silencer purchasing process. It's great. You get a money-back guarantee, no transfer fees, no paperwork errors. It's just you and your silencer with no drama. It truly is silencer ownership simplified. It is, man. I tell you guys about these companies because I do believe in them. Silencer Shop does a great job at scale. High-end armament is a great place to go for rare stuff, more high-end stuff. And then also try to help you guys out with ammo. Check out the link in the show notes there to True Shot Gun Club. It takes you to their site. If you buy ammo using that link, it helps the podcast. It helps PEW Science. It's pretty simple. And if you want free shipping on all the ammo you buy from them for the whole year, join their A-Zone membership and use code word PEW Science to save you $20 off on that membership. And you win, they win, you help the podcast. That's right. And finally, and most importantly, the J Situation Podcast is sponsored by PEW Science, pushing the silencer industry forward, one test at a time. Visit PewScience.com for the suppression rating. It is the simplest and the most accurate hearing safe ratings for your suppressed small arms. It's based on true human inner ear response of the entire gunshot from before combustion takes place all the way until the combustion is gone. That's right. And the suppression ratings in Section 5 of the Silencer Sound Standard. There are reviews in Section 6 of the standard. And finally, Section 7 contains the rankings, a simple database tool with which you can sort all the filtered public test results. That's right. You can go there, you click the filters and see what you want to apply. You pick an ammo, you pick a gun. You can go wild. You sort them, you sort it to your heart's content. You're going to drill down. You're going to see something you like, and when you do, you click a link in the table. It takes you back to Section 6, where you can look at the most in-depth silencer data in the world. That's right. As always, if you're a manufacturer and you would like to use PEW Science for private testing and consulting services, there's a form on the website with which you can submit that inquiry. Your contact information and all the test data that we generate will be held in strict confidence, unless, of course, you want to release it to the public, in which case PEW Science can certainly help you do that. We actually did that last week, and today I'll be talking about one of those data sets with you on the podcast. That's right. The Resilient Suppressors RSP. That's right. So that'll be cool. You can support this podcast. You can support PEW Science. You can support all the testing that I do by joining with a membership at pewscience.com. That's right. And if you don't want to join, or if you do and you want to give even more, there's a donate feature on the review page and the podcast page. Every little bit helps. That's right. And something that's free, it doesn't cost you anything. Please give a good rating of the podcast on iTunes or Spotify. It helps out. What it does is it helps the algorithm know that silencers and guns are awesome. And it shows that to more people. And then you get more people buying silencers. And soon we become all powerful. That's right. All right, I got 3 topics for you today. Topic 1, PEW Science SCAR project, update number 8. Using the Mototech SCARburator again, this time with the Surefire SOCOM762-RC, not the RC2, but the RC, and the SOCOM762-MIN2. That's right. It's a little bit of a unique use case there. We'll talk about that. Topic 2, Sound Signature Review 687. The Resilient Suppressors RSP on the HK P30L. That's right. This is a pistol review, semi-auto pistol, full-size combat handgun. That's right. Technical discussion. Boy, that was neat. That came out of left field, I'm sure. So we'll talk about that. And topic 3, man, testing keeps happening. We keep moving further down the path. We really do. Further down the path of grassroots funded research. It's great to see. We're over 2 years into this. It's awesome. So PEW Science is working hard for you. So your support helps a lot. I do appreciate it. All right. Let's move into topic 1 at a time of 7 minutes and 23 seconds. All right. Get some water. Okay, man, it has been a long day for me, guys. It's Tuesday. We had the long weekend, right? We had the Tuesday, the Monday was Monday off, right? Labor Day. We got home late last night because I was shooting all day. It's still things were kind of soggy still, but it wasn't raining. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to use this opportunity. I'm not going to do any work. I did a little bit of ranch work. But, recovering from like that long 3-day weekend of stuff. And then you got to go back to work and you're like, work sucks. You got to do it though. You do. I mean, it was pretty rainy all weekend. And so, it ended up relaxing. It was nice. And when you're able to do shooting, it's always a good time. It was a pretty fun little bit of shooting. Not a ton of shooting. I don't know how many rounds we put through the SCAR. It's like 80 rounds through the SCAR, maybe 80 more rounds or so, give or take. Now I think we're at about the 900 to 1,000 round mark on the gun. Okay, that's pretty much where we're sitting on the SCAR. All suppressed. All the rounds have been suppressed, other than the initial, couple. There's probably like 10 rounds unsuppressed on that gun. The rest are suppressed. And a variety of silencers. Have been used. And last time we left off on the SCAR project, I talked about installing the SCARburator from Mototech. That's right. We talked about its idiosyncrasies. We talked about using the CGS Hyperion K on the SCAR with the SCARburator. And so if you haven't listened to that most recent update or the previous update to the SCAR project, and you were following along on the project, I encourage you to listen to update number 7 first. Okay, that's going to be the previous episode. That's going to be episode 128 of this podcast. I encourage you to listen to that update topic because it explains how the SCARburator works. Okay, it's going to help you. It's going to help you understand. So this weekend, when we went shooting, we used it again. Okay, so all the stuff that I talk about, I think it's going to be important for you to know how it works. Because remember, the Hyperion K that I talked about before, it needed gas setting number 3 on the SCARburator. Okay, with the gas screw I currently have installed. And, so remember your SCAR mechanics, guys. You have an orifice screw, right? And if you have a SCARburator, it's a regulator after your screw, right? So your screw orifice is fully accessed on SCARburator setting 10, and your screw orifice is no longer accessed at SCARburator setting 0. You feel me? So unsuppressed with my current screw, the SCARburator needs to be on setting 6 for the gun to function. With the Hyperion K, it needs to be on setting 3. Okay, and so what does that mean? That indicates that the Hyperion K introduces enough flow restriction to result in enough increase in dwell time to need less gas impulse through the gas port to cycle the weapon, because the gas pressure stays above a certain threshold in the barrel longer. That's all that means, and that's the gist of it. That's how it works. You can dial down the gas 3 settings with the Hyperion K, from 6 unsuppressed to 3 suppressed. Okay, so with the Hyperion K, we are down in Omega 762 Zone 3. Remember? You remember that. We just talked about it. So I had some, having some time this holiday, I figured, hey, I need to take this gun out and do some crazy stuff with it. Let me take some other silencers with me. Okay, let's see what it'll do. And let me do something that's not going to be too much work for me, but at least it'll be something that's a quick thing. And so we're in luck. We actually lucked out. There was something very fortuitous that happened. Surefire has thrown their hat into the ring to support the PEW Science SCAR project. That's right, they have. And they have donated a few silencers to PEW Science for the effort they did. So I recently received from Surefire a SOCOM762-RC. That's right, it's a first generation. It's the one before the RC2. So they give me a 762-RC and also a SOCOM762-MIN2. That's right. So two silencers, and they're both in FDE, so they match the SCAR. Well, that's cool for the SCAR project, right? Yeah. So now, you got to keep in mind. So PEW Science readers are going to note here that we have a lot of data on the 762 RC2, but we don't have data on the 762 RC. Right. So, and I'm looking into this, but right now it seems, to my knowledge, the main difference between the RC2 and the RC is the type of welding. Okay, I think they switched to laser welding with the RC2 series. I do not, and I think the end cap is a little different, like as far as material goes, but I do not know if the gas dynamics are similar. I think they are. But regardless, I tried it on the SCAR. That's right. It's like there's no time to test it. We must put it on the weapon. So I did. So yeah. So there's that one. And then the 762-MIN2, that silencer, that's the latest generation SOCOM silencer series from Surefire, just like the RC2 series, except it's smaller. So the mini series is smaller. So I believe they have a 5.56 mini 2, and now this is the 762 Mini 2. Okay, so I had that one too. So where do these two silencers lie on the Omega 762 chart? Okay, the chart in the 308 bolt gun reviews and the chart that's in Research Supplement 640. So where do these two silencers lie on that chart? And remember, we talked about this chart at length last time, guys. I'm telling you, if you didn't listen to the previous episode, I don't want you to get lost, okay? So I get paranoid sometimes that people are skipping. I'm like, you're gonna miss it. But yeah. So where do these two silencers lie on the chart? Well, here's where I'm thinking. So the 762RC is most likely similar to the 762RC2. We're gonna suppose that. And I think that's probably close. So we're gonna assume that it's an Omega Zone 4. 1 second. Oh my God. It's not that the topic's boring. I just had this yawn to kill all yawns. It was amazing. 1 second. I'm telling you, I am stoked to eat like a big bowl of deer chili after this podcast because I am exhausted from the workday. So yeah, the 762RC2 is very similar. The 762RC is very similar to the RC2, and so we're gonna pretty much assume that it's an Omega Zone 4. And I'm gonna go ahead and open that on my computer just to make sure I can. I don't want to talk out of turn with regard to the zones. Let me scroll down. Yeah, so I just opened up the most recent 308 review on pewscience.com. I scroll down to figure 8 in that review, and yeah, that's right. So in Omega Zone 4, you have the SOCOM762-RC2. Okay, so that's where I think the RC always also fits there. Okay, so what about the 762-MIN2? Where would that fit? Well, we know it uses the same baffle technology, the same venting technology as the larger SOCOM762 silencers. But we know it's smaller and uses less baffles, doesn't it? That's right. So intuitively one would think, because it's based on the same technology, intuitively someone would say, well, that would indicate that it most likely has lower back pressure. That would mean that it most likely has less flow restriction. Right? And therefore, it probably has a lower Omega 762 parameter, a lower back pressure metric. Okay? So, this is just what I'm saying. Yeah, I would guess that. So, what did I do? Instead of testing it with PewSoft and running the calculations and everything, what did I do? I put them on the SCAR. I put them on the SCAR, and I'm here to tell you that's exactly what happened. The supposition is correct. Remember, CGS Hyperion K, gas setting 3. Okay. Surefire SOCOM762RC, gas setting 2. Huh. Funny how that works. And then the Surefire SOCOM762-MIN2, gas setting 3. Same as the Hyperion K. Huh. Interesting. Is that what you would expect? I mean, probably. That's probably exactly what you would expect. Well, let's talk about it. I mean, right? I mean, the result seems reasonable, doesn't it? Yeah. So, gas setting 2 for the SOCOM762RC. What does that mean? Well, it clearly means that it restricts more flow than the Hyperion K. Well, that makes sense. You probably would think it would. I mean, that is reasonable to assume. Knowing what we know, given what we know about the silencer, the size of the silencer, and the Omega Zone chart with the 762RC2. Right? I mean, again, we're assuming that the RC is similar. Now, what I should have done, I should have brought the RC2 out with me, but I didn't. Sorry. Okay, the ones Surefire just sent are FDE, and they look pretty. So here we are. That's right. Hey, you're gonna see a picture of this setup. It's so cool. Oh my God, I love it. I love this rifle. It's so great, so pretty. Yeah. So here we are. Now, what I did, I ended up shooting the 762RC for a couple of mags using both dioptic and thermal. After I re-zeroed the scope for the silencer, because of course I'm changing silencer, so I'm just going to change my zero. Right, I had the Hyperion K. First I had the OSS, then I had the Hyperion K, which actually those two didn't change the zero too bad, and then this one did change the zero on the windage specifically. You know what? I did have a malfunction in which the gun short-stroked on one of the rounds. That is it. So I fired a round. The carrier moved back. It didn't quite move back far enough to chamber another round, so it closed. I pulled the trigger, click. I'm like, oh, no round in the chamber. So I pulled the charging handle back, loaded a round, kept going. So what does that mean? That happened with the RC, with the full-size RC. What does that mean? Well, it means that setting 2 is barely letting any gas in at all, and the gun is getting dirtier now at a 1,000 round mark without cleaning. And for reliability, I could probably bump up the SCARburator setting 3 and make it okay. Okay, I could. But now, what are you doing? What are you doing? You see what you're doing now, right? You're tuning for increased dwell with a silencer. So you're in a place where things are a bit unknown. You're in this weird spot where the gun's not designed to operate like this, dude. And it lets you know. It lets you know. Let's talk about that. I had a bystander with me. They could smell the gas from the ejection port of the SCAR with the RC. And I was in the bed of my pickup, and they were on the ground, in a chair, okay, like low to the ground, like about, I'd say 10 feet to my left or so, maybe a little more, okay, like different elevation. Okay, and keep in mind, my pickup's a 3/4 ton, so it's up off the ground too. It's a big truck. They're on the ground. They could smell the gas. Me as the shooter, it wasn't gassing me out super bad, really. Which was interesting. I wasn't really, it wasn't horrible. Now, when I increased my firing cadence, keep in mind I'm laying prone in the bed of my truck. I got some wafting of gas here and there. Not too bad. When the bolt locked back on the empty mag, yeah, gas was billowing out. I could see it. It was interesting. This is the most restrictive silencer I've shot on the weapon so far. Okay, it is, and we're still in the bottom of Omega Zone 4, guys. I mean, not the bottom, but we're not too far off the bottom of Omega Zone 4. We aren't even to a nomad yet, dude. We're not even to a nomad yet. You feel me? You see what I'm saying here? Like, I'm already seeing things that indicates to me you're gonna have Gas City going higher. I think the silencer looks cool on the SCAR, and it works. It definitely works, but it definitely lets you know the gun is suppressed. Now, regard to function, like how many gas clicks I need, I think probably for reliability purposes, I'd probably put it on setting 3. Does that mean it has the same back pressure as a Hyperion K? Well, no. Just because Hyperion K uses setting 3, but it doesn't. Like it physically can't run on setting 2. It looks like the 762 RC2 can run on setting 2, but it might need setting 3 for reliability when the gun's dirty. You see how like the clicks. I told you guys this at the very beginning. The resolution of gas blocks is sometimes super important. The SCARburator is interesting because it has 10 settings. You see, and it just so happens that the gas screw I have in my SCAR is allowing for this differential. But don't you see how, like, if you had 20 settings on the SCARburator, maybe you would see more setting difference? But now you're seeing, like, the even the resolution of the SCARburator might not be enough to capture true, like, all the different true variations in Omega. You see how that's interesting? And that's why we have the Omega metric, right? The Omega metric is derived from experiments, but it's also showing you zones. So when you take the SCAR, maybe you're dialing your gas. It's going to give you, the Omega zone is going to give you a peg point, but it's not going to give you the exact setting, right? But it does illustrate what can happen, the difference that can happen. One second. Yeah, so I think that's just a pretty important thing to understand, like, because you might hear someone say, well, I can use the same setting for this silencer and this silencer. It's like, well, sometimes that indicates that their flow restriction is similar, but sometimes it also indicates that it might indicate that your system doesn't have a lot of resolution. See what I mean? So, like, because when I turned to setting 3 for the full size Surefire, I bet you it's going to run, but I bet you it's going to be a little more aggressive. The gun's going to be a little more aggressive. The bolt's going to be moving a little faster than it needs to be if the gun was super clean, and it could run on setting 2. Whereas on Hyperion K, I can't put it on setting 2. It will not run. I have to put it on setting 3, and I could probably go to setting 4, but I probably don't want to. You see what I mean? So as Omega drops, you're going to need to feed the system more gas impulse in order to cycle. Okay, it makes sense, right? Now, that's the RC, and maybe the RC2. We'll see later. Okay, that's what I shot. Now, what about the 762-MIN2? Actually, much more pleasant. Much higher flow rate though, right? Much less gassy, right? Now, what about to the Observer? What did the Observer feel? Well, again, the Observer had inner ear protection in. I don't know if I said that before. The Observer had inner ear protection in, as did I, and they did remark that the 762-MIN2 was louder. They did remark that it was louder than the RC, the larger silencer. They also remarked that it was possibly higher pitched, maybe higher pitched, but that it wasn't unpleasantly so. And they remarked that both weapon systems were fairly loud, but from both silencers. So remember, guys, I'm shooting a 13-inch barrel semi-auto 308 out of the back of a truck, and they weren't that far away. So they remarked that both weapon systems were fairly loud. Makes sense. Now, and this is something we noted that I thought was interesting. One thing that was interesting was that during function testing, before prone shooting, like before I dropped down prone, I didn't find the SCARburator settings prone. I was standing up to observe brass ejection patterns and stuff. Standing freehand, shooting into a berm. I was shooting to a berm really close, with the ejection port toward the bystander. And I'd say they were about 10 feet away or so. And this one, I'm standing up with nothing between, so the bed rails of the truck weren't between me and them. It was just me standing, them sitting down about 10 feet away, and I'm shooting the SCAR. They are to my right, so they're in direct in line with the ejection port. Okay? They remarked that the full-size RC seemed louder in a way. Like they were like, that sounded louder. What was that? And I when they said that, I was like, and this is when I was tuning it, they were like, they said it, and I said, man, I wonder if it's the port pop. I wonder if that's even impacting you. Like, that's so interesting. I was like, that's so interesting. For the bystander to hear that was just really interesting to me. And for the function testing, I was wearing my OpsCore Fast SF helmet with OpsCore amp external hearing protection connected to the helmet on the OpsCore arms there. And I was also using the little NFMI plugs. I like those. And because the amps, when I put the amps on my helmet with the OpsCore mounts, they don't clamp to my head as hard as they do when I'm using the OpsCore amps on a headband that it comes with. Okay, and actually that means it actually makes them more comfortable on wearing the helmet because they don't like smash to my head as hard. But I use the NFMI plugs in place, and so I still feel very safe with that seal. Now, when I was shooting prone, I was using my other pair of OpsCore amps, still with the NFMI plugs, but with the normal headband. Okay, so it was a really tight seal. It's actually really incredible, and I really like the amps, and that's why I have two pairs of those. I have two pairs of those hearing protection, one for my helmet and one for not my helmet when I don't want to wear the helmet. And so I guess I could hear this. I mean, the OpsCore amps are electronic hearing protection, so I can hear the sound. Obviously, it's throttling the amplitude and it's filtering it so that I don't, I'm not getting the overpressure because my ears are covered. So the overpressure wave isn't able to impact my ear. So I'm hearing through a microphone. But like I wasn't like I guess I wasn't focused on the sound differences. Both things were loud. Like I could hear the gunshot and I could feel the gassing on me. So there wasn't anything from these two Surefire silencers that stood out to me like, oh wow, that was like super quiet, or oh wow, that was super loud. No, it was like, I'm shooting a short barrel 308 and it's suppressed. So I mean, it was like, there wasn't anything crazy. So one thing I did notice, interestingly, the RC induced more windage shift to the point of impact. So the point of impact shift had more windage to it than the 762-MIN2. And I and the same mount, didn't move the mount. I think probably just the length of the silencer, possibly, maybe it's because it's an older, it's an older silencer. It's before they used laser welding. It might not be as exact. The baffle stack might not be as exact as the RC2. I don't know. I'm not sure. Once I got it zeroed, it was fine. But I did find that interesting. And another just general thought, another cool thing was that once it was zeroed, it was really easy to shoot with it. I mean, I really liked the SCAR. I thought the weapon handled fine with the full size 7.62 RC. When it was tuned for it, like I said, that one malfunction because I just think I was undergassed. I think he bumped that. I think the rifle's dirty. I think bumping it up to setting 3 from setting 2. I think, I have 10 settings, so there's no problem getting enough gas. I think that would have prevented a short stroke. And actually, after I had that malfunction, I didn't move it to setting 3 with a RC. I left it at setting 2 because I wanted to see if it would happen again, and it ended up not happening again. And I was like, I guess that was like, it could have been I don't know. It's Lake City ammo, so it's brand new manufactured Lake City ammo. So I don't think it was the ammo. I do think it was. I think it was the gun because it's dirty and it was undergassed. But I don't know. I guess it could have been in the ammo too. So right now, I think we're seeing several things. Okay, I think we're seeing several things with the SCAR with these silencers, and I think this gives us some really great data points down in that Omega Zone 3 to 4 range, and I think that's really where we're playing with the SCAR right now. I think we're seeing that Omega Zone 4. I think that might be the point where you start to get gassed as the shooter of a SCAR 17 with tuning. Does that make sense? Like, because guys, you're not. I think people don't understand this. If you tune a semi-auto for a high back pressure silencer, you're still going to get gassed. You can't get away from that, guys. You're still going to get gas out of the barrel. It's going to happen. Tuning the gun is keeping the bolt closed longer because it's reducing the amount of gas impulse going to the piston or the gas tube or whatever your system is doing, but you're not going to be able to blow all of the gas out of your barrel through the silencer in time to be like unsuppressed unless you have a super high flow rate silencer. So when I say that Omega Zone 4 might be the point where noticeable gassing starts to happen with the weapon, maybe to the midpoint of Omega Zone 4. When I say that, I think it's important. I think that's a really meaningful. I think that's a really meaningful thing to know. And if this is holding true, and Omega Zone 4, if that means that a Nomad TI, a Trash Panda, and stuff like that can gas you too, then, and keep in mind the gasoline wasn't terrible, but if you're starting to notice that, well, that would make sense, guys. All right. And that's another thing we're seeing. I think we're seeing the Omega 762 zone chart really doing well so far. I mean, I know we have on the SCAR. I mean, we have a few data points, right? But it's aligning with actual weapon function, which is good to know. You got to remember, PEW Science internal testing with AR308 has proved out Zone 4, Zone 5, and Zone 6 with the rugged rifle silencers. Remember the Razor, the Radiant, and the Short Surge, and the Long Surge? We've proven that already. That's already been validated. So, I mean, that's a pretty good thing. And so now we have Surefire silencers doing a preliminary validation of zones 3 and 4. Assuming that the 762-MIN2 falls within zone 3 when I test it on a bolt gun. I don't know if it will. Okay. What if it's like on the bottom of zone 4? Okay, and you know what I mean? Or it might be in zone 3. I feel like it's going to be in zone 3. That's my bet. That's my guess. Okay, when I haven't tested it, so I haven't. And when I say I haven't tested it, like I evaluated it on the SCAR, but I haven't tested with PewSoft. So we'll have to do that. Okay. Based on the physics we understand, it would be reasonable for it to be in zone 3. So, knowing these things, this might be pointing to an Omega 762 parameter of around 0.1 or so being the comfort threshold for the SCAR 17 CQC. I don't know. Because you remember, we're doing this on a 13-inch barrel. That's the CQC barrel. Okay. I don't know. It's a really high resolution guess, and I'm not sure we have enough data to say that yet. But it may be that's what we end up saying. We say, you want to be gas free on a SCAR when it's tuned. You probably want to not be too much higher than 0.1 Omega 762 parameter, possibly. We might be able to say things like that. Can you? Oh my God! What if the day comes that we can say that? Wouldn't that be cool? It would be cool. I mean, think about it. I think that it will be possible to tune for other silencers on this gun. I do think that, but I think what's going to happen is that you may start to do things to the rifle that are bad. Like regardless of tuning. Okay? I think you're going to get to a point where you restrict the gas and the weapon cycles. But the duration of high pressure in the barrel, that duration is going to reach a threshold that might harm the gun. It's not that the pressure is hurting the gun, it's that the pressure stayed around too long. And then it hurt the gun. Yeah, I think that might end up happening. And I don't think you can just tune for every silencer with this gun. I don't think that's how it's going to work. I think that you might think you can, and you might do it, but it might not be good for the gun. I don't know. Okay? But man, isn't that cool? And I think we're close. Wouldn't it be amazing if you could take a gun, the SCAR being, let's say the SCAR's a gun. Well, it's the SCAR a gun. Yeah, the SCAR's a gun. Let's say we pick a gun. What do we want to pick? Oh, we're going to pick a 13-inch SCAR 17. Well, why do you pick that? Well, let's pick that because it's a semi-auto. Okay. You take that gun, and what if I could tell you, and you say, Jay, I want to put a silencer on my SCAR 17 13-inch barrel. I say, are you going to tune it? You say, yeah, I'm going to tune it. I say, okay. Well, what's your desired performance case? Well, I want to make sure that it's not going to gas me too much. What if I could tell you, okay, look at the 762 silencers tested on pewscience.com, and you were like, well, you haven't shown any semi-auto tests. I'm like, yeah, but I have the Omega metric. Like, what's that? Well, go to the Omega chart, pick a silencer of 0.1 Omega or below, and it's not going to gas you too bad on your SCAR as long as you're tuned right. And you'd be like, what? That works? I'll be like, it does. Wouldn't that be crazy? I mean, I'm not confident enough in this yet to say that I can say that to you. But what if we get to that point? Because then, I mean, the sky's the limit, really. You understand? You understand the power of this, right? Don't you? Because then what can we do? Well, we can just test any silencer and find its Omega. And then we know how it works on a gun. You don't even need the gun, dude. What does that mean? That means anyone with a bolt gun can figure this out. That's right. All you need is a silencer. And then what do you do? Then you could just pick another gun and be like, oh, this gun with these few silencers does this. And then you correlate it. And then you're like, okay, now I know what all these other silencers do with that gun. All you need is all you need to do is get the Omega metric and then do a couple test cases with a gun to see how sensitive the gun is, to see like which zone it's happiest in. And then you're good to go later for extrapolation. Isn't that cool? Wouldn't that be awesome? It's almost like one of the most useful things ever. So, yeah. So all in all, it was pretty fun. Do we need more function testing? Absolutely. Do the Surefire silencers look cool? They look very cool. Are they the best for this gun? I think it depends on what you need. Right now, I think there might be better options, but I'm not mad at them. I'm not mad at them. Okay, I know a lot of people use the SOCOM762 on the SCAR. People love it, and I think if you have enough gas, so you don't short stroke, so like if you don't go to the tune to the bleeding edge of reliability on setting 2 in this particular setup, and you go to setting 3 with the and please don't try to duplicate that, guys. Like you don't know what gas screw setting what gas screw orifice size I have. So if your 13-inch barrel SCAR has a different orifice screw in your gas block, and you have a SCARburator, you might not need setting 2. You might need another setting. So just please be careful. The way you do this is the way you tune this safely, and I'll tell you what I did. The way you do it safely so you don't break your gun is you start off on a setting that like won't. I took notes. Let me pull them up. You start off on a setting that you know won't cycle. So let's see. What we did was for the RC, I set the SCARburator on setting 1 and it ejected, but it didn't lock back. And I was like, oh my God, I got ejection on setting 1. That's crazy. And I went to setting 2 and it ejected and locked back. I was like, okay, setting 2. And then the Surefire Mini 2, the 762 Mini 2, I was like, okay, I know that RC worked on setting 2. I'm going to try the Mini 2 on setting 2. Okay, because I know it's not going to have more back pressure than the RC, so I know it's going to be fine. And on setting 2, sure enough, it ejected, but it didn't lock back. I was like, oh, I guess I needed to go to a higher setting. Went to setting 3 with the Mini 2, and it worked. I was like, okay, setting 3 it is. So that's how you do it. What you don't do is put it like on setting 6, that was the unsuppressed setting for me, and then put the silencer on it and be like, oh, it worked. Let me go to setting 5 and see if that works. Oh, it worked. Let me go to setting 4 and see if that works. Oh, it worked. Let me go to 7. That's bad. Because what are you doing? You're hammering your gun to death. Because you're like shooting like over gas the entire time. It's like, no. Start from where it's not going to cycle. Guys, come on. I talked about that last time where, excuse me. I talked about that last time where someone broke their SCAR with the SAM-NS. I have a feeling that that guy might have done something like that where, you look at the SAM-NS, it's at 0.1 Omega metric. That doesn't mean you won't break the SCAR. It just means that you need to tune right. See the difference between, and that's the nuance that a lot of people, I think, are going to need to get through their head. Just because a silencer can work on a gun doesn't mean it won't break your gun. Can work and is working are two different things. I can break anything. All right? It doesn't, I'm sure you could, you know what you could do? You could probably break a SCAR with an OSS, but what you would have to do is overgas it unsuppressed. You can break let me say that exact same sentence a different way. I'm going to say the same thing I just said in a different way. You can probably break a SCAR without a silencer on it. You understand now what I'm saying? That's right. You can break a SCAR unsuppressed. It's all about how much gas impulse is getting fed through that port. Now, the thing that can break the SCAR with a silencer that can't break it unsuppressed is something different, but that's a very special case, and we'll talk about that if we end up proving it later. Okay, let's move into topic 2. I hope that, and this has been for posterity, this has been update number 8 of the PEW Science SCAR project. Okay, moving to topic 2 at a time of 45 minutes and 21 seconds. All right, we gotta cook here. We gotta get going here. All right, and I want to do this topic justice because it's really important. Topic 2, sound signature review 687. That's right, the Resilient Suppressors RSP on the HK P30L. Okay, semi-auto, full-size 9mm pistol. All right, this is a technical discussion. All right, I want to talk about some things that are really important. We're not going to spend a super long time on this, but we do need to talk about this silencer. This is probably, and I know a lot of people are not excited about this. I can see it in the analytics. I can see it in just the general traffic on social media. I get it. You know, some really avid PEW Science members told me, they're like, I'm just not that interested in 9mm like I am rifle. And I told some of them, I said, I know, it's okay. You're more AR guys, you're more rifle guys, you're not really silencer guys. And I think a couple of those guys might have taken that personally, maybe not. They know I like them. It's true. A lot of people don't understand that for a lot of firearms enthusiasts, even I was gonna say a lot of firearm owners, but even a lot of firearms enthusiasts, a lot of them didn't really don't understand the gravity of this review. They will in time, but I don't think they understood the gravity of it because they're not as familiar with suppressing pistols, and not a lot of people are. So suppressing a center fire pistol is weird, but it is something that silencer enthusiasts have done for many, many decades, and something that people have been chasing for a long time. Chasing that quiet semi-auto centerfire handgun is just something that people have always tried to do. And so I think this review did come out of left field. A lot of people guessed to try to figure out what it was, and no one guessed. No one guessed correctly. And so that was by design. And the reason why it came out of left field was because it was client driven. I didn't try to trip you up. Okay, this was client driven. And so big thanks to Resilient Suppressors for trusting me to do it, for trusting me to perform this work. They approached PEW Science for testing, and this is a result of that, okay? And there's more to come from them. There's more to come from Resilient. These guys are doing some very interesting things, okay? It's a text-based company. You love to see it. You love to see it. So it's been a long time since you have seen a centerfire pistol review from PEW Science. It's been a while, right? I mean, it's been a couple years. The previous pistol reviews were published in 2020. Before this, I went back and I looked at the dates. In the early days of the public PEW Science effort, that's when I published the previous pistol reviews. Single-digit review numbers. That's right. The review numbers were still in the single digits. That's you know what? Actually, that's still when I was publishing things to let folks know what was possible. I was hopping back and forth. I was like, well, let me publish this. I don't think people were like, what's going on? That it was in the early days of people being extremely skeptical. They were extremely skeptical about all of this. And I had to show people. I had to show people what was possible. So I did a few things that aren't as important, really. Like, I mean, they're important, but they're not nearly as important. Like, I was like doing like 22 stuff and semi-auto pistol, and I was like, well, I want people to see the gravity. I want people to see the gravity of it. And actually, at that time, even more primitive was there were no detailed ratings published at PEW Science. I was only publishing the composite rating at that time. Okay. I eventually went back and I updated all the articles to include the detailed ratings. I don't know if some of you remember that. But why? And so why did I do that? Why did I go back and update it with detailed ratings? Well, 9mm from a handgun was one of the big reasons why. If you don't have the muzzle in your ratings, it can be very, very bad for you as a user of this weapon system. You'll understand why. You will. Most of you do now, but back then, people didn't think about it. They weren't thinking about it until they shot the silencer and emailed me, and they were like, "Are you sure this is..." And I'm like, "Oh, you're experiencing sound field differential. What's that? We can't just use one number to classify a silencer? Huh." It's almost like everything I told the industry before came to light. Like, if you remember your PEW Science history, when I started this, the reason why we had the composite rating was because there were several major industry parties that they're like, "No, we we want one number. This needs to be one number." I was coming up with this stuff, and I was like, "You guys, are you sure? Like, I really think that we're gonna need to really characterize the sound field in a little more complicated way. Like, oh, one number is the best." Okay. Then everyone has seen the Mark 18 reviews, and they're like, "Oh, what's that? The sound at the ear matters?" Oh, it's funny. So yeah, let's check, and you'll see this when we go through this. Bottom line up front, 46.0 composite suppression rating, 36.9 at the muzzle, 45.1 at the ear. That's right. Boy, howdy. 45.1 at the ear on a full-size 9mm handgun? Dude, HK P30L, Spear Lawman, full power, subsonic ammo. Actual self-defense surrogate ammo. Real 9mm ammo. 45.1 at the ear. With a pistol silencer. A 6.8-inch long pistol silencer that weighs 7.9 ounces. Dude, that's insane. 36.9 at the muzzle. Super quiet? Not really. Super loud? Also not really. Which is important. That's an important thing here too. Trust me. Because you're going to see more pistol data from PEW Science. Okay? So let's move on. All right, now, immediately, I'm going to scroll down the review here. And by the way, folks, if you're following along at home, I have pulled up Sound Science Review 687 on pewscience.com. In the review section, I pulled up the member review. You can follow along at home in the free version. Even if you're not a member, it's okay. Now, immediately, as you go through this data, you will note that the data presentation in 2022 from PEW Science is higher quality than what was shown in 2020. Okay, same type of data. It just presented a lot better here in 2022. In 2 years, we have gotten a little better at some stuff, and you see that. So I just want to make that note that I'm not totally oblivious to the fact that it looks nicer now. It's just I have gotten a little better at what I do. Now, one thing about the RSP that is extremely interesting is the consistency of the silencer and the impulse waveforms. This is really cool. This is really cool. Check it out. Check out figure 2A. It's really neat. These impulse waveforms are significantly different than the ones you saw from other silencers tested so far on the platform. They really are. And the two biggest things besides the consistency of these waveforms is the FRP and the back pressure. It's really interesting. The RSP, it doesn't have a lot of either. It doesn't have a lot of either. It doesn't have a lot of back pressure or FRP. And that, my friends, is a big deal. And you know what? It's actually the magic of the RSP. It's the magic of it. I would say that the biggest thing the RSP has to offer, besides its size and weight, are the gas dynamics. I think the RSP probably has the best gas dynamics for the shooter than any other silencer I've tested on a handgun like this. Guys, you're able to flow fast enough to keep port pop to a minimum on a combat handgun, dude. On a combat handgun. And guess what? You're doing it better than a 45 caliber silencer on a 9mm handgun. What does that mean? It means the RSP's design is much different. It's much different. This silencer is much different. Now ask yourself something. And this is important, and I have it right here. I just pulled it out. When you look at inertial decoupling pistons in pistol silencers, what do you see? What do you see when you look at them? So, well, you see some that look super duper similar. That's what you see. That's what you see. In fact, most of the inertial decoupling pistons that you see are extremely similar. Some of the pistons are so similar to each other that they work in silencers from other brands. They do. It's almost like the silencer companies are treating them like mounts. It's funny, right? In a way, it's almost like they think it doesn't matter how they work. It's almost like they think the baffles of the silencer are the only important part. Or like, it'll work. We'll just do this piston like we always have done. Well, I'm here to tell you that everything matters. Everything matters, and the piston in the RSP is extremely important for the silencer's design. And what do you see in it? What do you see in it? You see immediate venting. Okay. It's different. It's different than some other pistons, though, the way it vents, isn't it? And does the silencer take advantage of this? Does the RSP take advantage of the way its piston is designed? Absolutely, it does. It's holistic. The design is holistic. And so are you guys noticing a theme with this? Like, this is like just as an aside, like rifle, subgun, pistol. Doesn't matter, dude. What do you know now? What do you know? What do you know about silencer flow rate? You know it controls back pressure. Is it the volume of the blast chamber? For the millionth time, no. No, it's not. It's flow rate. Flow rate governs back pressure. And I said this on the internet the other day, and someone was talking to me about this the other day too. You know how Advanced Armament Corporation back in the day, AAC, you guys remember that? Remember they had that SCAR silencer? We just got done talking about the SCAR, so I feel like it's a fitting topic here. AAC, they made that silencer for the SCAR, and then SOCOM, you know what they had to do to make it work on the SCAR? They had to drill holes in the silencer into the blast chamber from the outside of the silencer to vent gas directly out of the silencer to atmosphere for it to work. That's right. It would still hide flash and stuff, but you think it was quiet? You think that silencer was quiet on the SCAR? Well, no. Now, AAC designed it. Do you think they understood silencer flow rate and how it affected guns? It clearly didn't. Because if they did, they wouldn't have done that. But guess what? Now all of you do know. You all know. You listen to the podcast, you know. Isn't that cool? I think it's cool. I think that's interesting. And I say this because, we just got done talking about flow restriction and how it affects the SCAR. And now what are we doing? What's the theme here? Now we're talking about how flow restriction influences pistol sound signature to the shooter. Aren't we? Why? Because we're talking about the RSP. Why? Because we're talking about the RSP's piston and its baffles and its test results. Okay? So now that you see that early venting is the key to getting rid of back pressure, you can see why the RSP absolutely trounces other silencers on this gun to the shooter. Now, to be clear, this is a good host pistol for silencers. It really is. Is it the fault of the P30L that other silencers are loud at the shooter's ear? No, it's the fault of the silencers. Okay, if you're a PEW Science member, you get to see some absolutely amazing data at the shooter's ear, and I encourage you to check that out when you can. Okay, I do. For everyone else, go to check out Figure 5. All right, scroll all the way down to Figure 5. That's right. This is a great figure, and it's showing the RSP with almost a category higher rating at the shooter's ear on a pistol compared to the CGS Mod 9 full size, compared to this SWR Trident 9. It's a really big deal. And then the full size Rugged Obsidian 45, a 45 silencer that's super long. That's still louder at the ear by half a category than the RSP. It's amazing, right? Drop the back pressure even more by on that big bore Obsidian, and you by putting it in a short configuration, which is still longer than the RSP, and it really doesn't even get that much quieter to the shooter because it's loud at the muzzle due to the huge bore. So and the RSP is wrecking shop at the ear, dude. It just is. That's what the data shows. It just is. Okay. So now to bystanders, the RSP is louder than all of these silencers, isn't it? The RSP is louder than all of these silencers. It's neck and neck with the Obsidian 45 in the short config at the muzzle. And the early time flow rate says at the ear. 1 second. That's really what's happening there. The rest of the silencers, they destroyed at the muzzle, right? Because, hey, they're trapping way more gas. Okay, they're gas traps, and they're doing it well. Okay, I mean, speaking of gas traps, the original Omega baffle, the baffle stack in the Trident 9, those are true Omega baffles. That's a fantastic gas trap. And you see that in the data, but very high back pressure. Okay, the Omega baffles tend to do that. That's what they do. Now, this is a new company. It's a new silencer, but I do think it's a radical departure from traditional pistol silencer construction. I do. And I would not be saying this stuff if I didn't. And believe me, these are my words. They didn't tell me to say this stuff. You guys know me. I'm literally, this is what I think. These guys, they're venting the piston. They have good venting earlier in their baffle stack. They change the baffle geometry later in the stack when it matters. And there's details that are good too. They're changing the material when it matters. First few baffles are steel, then they move to aluminum. For a pistol silencer, it's got the juice in all the right places, man. I'm loving it. The only thing I don't love is that I don't have an easy lock piston for it. But but hey, the pistons are smaller. They're actually smaller, so you would need a special solution. I think, and you know what? I think there's a half 28 easy lock universal adapter that would allow you to thread your half 28 RSP piston onto it and then easy lock that to your pistol. It's just going to add a little length, but it would work. I don't know. I think I'm going to try it. I'm going to buy one of those. I'm going to buy one of those little universal thingies and try it. It might be cool. Yeah. I don't know. Because having a quieter pistol silencer at the ear, I'm into that, dude. Because you know what? I don't know if you guys know. A lot of people sometimes, well, it depends what I'm using the pistol silencer for. My main real world use for pistol silencers is carrying one with me to put on the gun when I need to use the gun unexpectedly. My most often use cases for using my pistol unexpectedly are killing snakes at the ranch or other critters when I need to. And I do carry one for self-defense. Now, the RSP is a little too long to fit my fanny pack comfortably, so that's a problem. So that would be one thing that would keep me from using it more. I do like how light it is. I am thinking about maybe I could also carry in it's in its own holster like a lunatic. Could be cool. Now, another thing you need to know about the RSP is that it's very light. And I kind of alluded to it, but I'm not sure you understand. It feels good on the end of a pistol because of that. And it's not super small diameter, but it's not super large either, which I think is cool. And I think, again, it's probably the most significant pistol silencer development that I've seen since I started PEW Science, based on performance at the shooter's ear. I'm not saying this is the best pistol silencer, or that any pistol silencer on the market is the best. But what I am saying is that I think it's special, and I think it's doing something special that other pistol silencers are not doing. So for that, I think it has a very interesting place in the market. I think those are my thoughts on the RSP. You know, you hold it, and it feels good in the hand. I like it. I think the longitudinal grooves in it are cool. They do help with tightening it. I'm not sure that I'm necessarily a fan of those. I think it maybe saves a tiny bit of weight, possibly. I think I would, if I had my druthers, I would want that just smooth black with no grooves in it. Honestly, it's kind of weird. You almost don't. I wouldn't think you would put a groove in a tube like that. You would think it would weaken it. I guess I didn't need that strength, but seems to work. I mean, maybe because their flow rate's so high, it doesn't matter. It's interesting. But yeah, I mean, I think it's elegant. I think it's cool looking. I think that I would, if it was just like plain smooth, no grooves or anything, I'd be like, yeah. I think it looks cool how it is. I do think it's a great silencer. It's smart looking, classy. But yeah, the length and the weight's concentrated toward the back, balances well. It's quiet at the ear. It's short, easy to take apart. They include a little aluminum tool with it. It's just like an end cap removal tool. It can remove the rear or the front. Pretty easy to do. Yeah, it's simple. It comes with I guess they sent me a couple of different pistons. I believe it comes with at least one piston, and then it has its spring, inertial decoupler spring, and it's pretty simple. Yeah. So good job, Resilient. Thanks for trusting me to test it. Thanks for trusting me to analyze the data and present it to the world. I think it's a big deal, and I'm not sure folks realize how big a deal this silencer is yet, but I think they will. I do think they will. I am certain of it because I know how it performs. I wouldn't be saying that if I didn't think it was true. Okay. Topic 3, a time of 1 hour, 7 minutes, and 57 seconds. Okay. Yeah. Testing keeps happening. It does. We keep moving further down the path of grassroots funded research. Working hard for you guys. I really am. You know what? And I really love interacting with members. I really do. It just brings me so much joy to help you guys, and I love seeing you folks help others. I see it every day. I was off social media for a while this past weekend, and I hopped on real quick to check some things last night, and sure enough, there were people referencing PEW Science data to help other people make informed decisions. There were. And it really warms my heart, and it's really the point of all this. And I think that knowledge practically applied is wonderful. And that's what this is. It really is. And a guy, and another thing, a dude said to me the other day, he said, I think I posted it to my story. We had a conversation. I reposted. I wanted people to see it. He said, I'm paraphrasing. He said sometimes he didn't think people get it. He said a lot of people explain this effort like we're testing silencer sound. And, sure, we are sort of doing that, but what we are really doing is we're looking at the inner ear response, and we're looking at combustion dynamics, right? And so we're evaluating how the silencers affect your ears, and we're evaluating why. And that, my friends, is what is pushing the industry forward. I mean, look how much we've done so far with this effort. Through you guys funding, you guys are funding this effort, and look what we've done. Look how we're able to speak about the SCAR, about silencers working on it or not working on it. about getting gassed in the face. We know why and how and which silencers are more likely to do it. Isn't that cool? I just think it's so great, what we've built together. So thank you. Thanks again. Please stay safe. And maybe if you can, maybe get out there and go shooting if you have a chance. And go out there and practice shooting with your suppressed weapons. Do it. And maybe, you find the holes in your game. And there's nothing wrong to find something wrong with what you've been doing. Maybe you have a silencer installed. You're like, you know what? This was never zeroed right. I need to zero this. Or maybe you have a silencer that keeps coming loose. And you're like, you know what? I'm going to solve this problem. I'm going to get more comfortable shooting my silencer or my gun. Find out what's hard or what's difficult or giving you problems and go do it and get better at it. Okay? Hey, and clean your suppressed guns. Okay, they'll last longer if you do. Okay, I'll talk with you folks again soon. All right, bye.